So I made egg rolls yesterday and I delivered them to certain people. And one was my oldest sister who lives 12 miles from my house. And while I was there, she's like, Mark, my clock quit working. So I loaded it in a box and brought it home, took the door off, and I noticed right away the bellow wire had came off. And yeah, that's going to stop your clock. Where the pin is, hopefully it's on the other side, that connects the wire to the bellow. But anyway, I got to take this thing back apart. And she was complaining about the chain for the music box. It does ratchet. It's a little. I think it might have been caught on something because it's ratcheting fine for me. But she's like, well, the music's not playing, the cuckoo's not playing, the clock's not working. And I think the hand is too tight. And I'm like, the hand is not too tight. It has nothing to do with it. So anyway, I gotta take this thing back apart. Taking putting the clock in my stand, putting the weights on, trying to get the thing to tick. The eyelet was not in the case. It's not on the bellow. The eyelet that the wire connects to the bellow. It's not on the bellow. It's not in the case. And the clock is not ticking and it stops immediately. I think the eyelet is in the movement, so I'm going to have to take the movement out to see what's going on. The things, I worked 11 hours making egg rolls. Left at 5:30, didn't get back till 8:30. I was out for 3 hours delivering egg rolls, and I brought 2 clocks home to work on. The things you do for people that you love. Taking putting the clock in my stand, putting the weights on, trying to get the thing to tick. The eyelet was not in the case. It's not on the bellow. The eyelet that the wire connects to the bellow. It's not on the bellow. It's not in the case. And the clock is not ticking and it stops immediately. I think the eyelet is in the movement, so I'm going to have to take the movement out to see what's going on. The things, I worked 11 hours making egg rolls. Left at 5:30, didn't get back till 8:30. I was out for 3 hours delivering egg rolls, and I brought 2 clocks home to work on. The things you do for people that you love. Yeah, I released the bird. I took the chains, links, and hooks off. I took the screws out. You will notice I did not, and I repeat, I did not bend this wire that trips the music box. I'm leaving it exactly where it's at. And what you do, you position the movement, so you can slide that wire off. And there, the movement is out. I still had one chain that got caught up in the movement, so I couldn't take it all the way out. It's stuck on the gears. Stand by. Taking a screwdriver and pushing on that gear and etc., you'll get the chain off. But now I'm looking at this movement to see if I could see that piece that might have fell inside this movement. The part from the bellow. I'm not seeing it. Doesn't mean it's not there. I'm gonna put a chain on this and let it run without the pendulum on to see if it stays running and go from there. Now, my sister does have cats in her house. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is a hair inside that movement. And so I see at least 2 hairs inside this movement. And so the cats love playing with cuckoo clock chains. And so don't dogs. And so just be aware, because the way they're designed, your animals will track hair in the movements. I think I broke the hair off, but anyway, I'm going to put a weight on this chain and weight, put it on my stand and let it run. Now I've released the little man from the door, but I'm going to trip the music. Little man's going outside the door and he comes back in. But I'm going to take the music box out by taking these 2 screws at the top out and see what's going on with the ratchet wheel for the chain. And I don't have to take the chain off. I just want to see if I can loosen the ratchet wheel. And to loosen the ratchet wheel, you have these 3 prongs. If you bend them up a little bit, it won't put as much pressure on the ratchet wheel, and you'll be able to ratchet it easier. She was complaining that it was hard to ratchet, so I'm going to loosen them. It seems pretty loose as it is, but I'm going to pry them up a little bit to allow it to ratchet easier. If you get it too loose, it's going to it's not going to work properly. So now it ratchets easier. I'm going to trip the music because I have it too dang loose. I don't have enough slack in the chain. So yeah, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Anyway, I tripped the music and I'm pulling on the chain because I want to see if everything's working properly, which it seems to be. So now I'm going to put the music box back in, and I find it easier. Let me get a piece of wire. I already got a piece of wire cut. Just give me a second. I find it easier to stick a piece of wire in the top of the case where the screw goes, and then line that piece of wire up with the hole where the screw goes, and then push everything in place. And if I did it right, I could pull this piece of wire out and put the screw in. When I pulled the piece of wire out, it dropped. So I have to do this all over again. And my wire's bent. You want to use straight wire. One more time on camera. Doing things on camera is totally different than not doing them on camera. Anyway, I'm going to do this off camera, but you get the drift. As soon as I shut my camera off, I looked up in my tool holder and I found this piece of straight wire. And immediately, on the very first try, I got the screws to line up with the hole on both sides. And like I said, doing things on camera for you folks sometimes doesn't work as planned. And so I think that I got my point across anyway. Now I need to hook the little man back up. Grabbing my hemostat pliers because it's a lot easier to control this wire when you got the hemostats clamped to the wire. He's hooked up. He's doing his thing. If I could show you, he's doing his thing. He goes back in, the door slams shut. That's what I want. And I told you, sometimes if you loosen the ratchet wheel too much, it won't work properly. So now I need to put this clock in my stand at a weight and see if it's going to work properly, because it might be slipping because I loosened that ratchet wheel up too much. I'm going to trip the music a few times. I'm just trying to get the weight down so I can wind it to see if the ratchet's going to slip. My sister is very picky. If this one is too loose and the other ones are tighter, she'll complain to me, Mark, the cuckoo and the time chain are tighter than the music chain. I don't care myself. As long as the stupid clock works, that's the only thing I care about. Now, some people are picky like that, and it is what it is. But you have to remember, I'm not charging my sister anything, and I gave her free food. So it's working properly. I'll let the clock run a couple of days at my house before I take it back to her to see if there are any issues. I told you in another video that I think the clock misses being at my house myself because it'll work fine at my house. I take it to her house and it doesn't work. But it seems to be working just fine. So looking at my sister's clock parts under a microscope, it's the escapement wheel. And I just cleaned this clock not too long ago. There's a hair there. There's crud on the escapement wheel. There's a hair there. Another hair there. Another hair there. And another hair there. Another hair there. Some more hairs. I think I've gone all the way around now. But, you know, people love their pets, and she loves her pets. And the funny thing about it is she's always home pets. But her dog passed away. And when I cleaned this clock before, I didn't see any hair in the clock. Maybe the dog kept the cats away from the clock. I don't know. But I'm not going to tell her about it. I just suck it up, clean it, do as good as I can, get it running, take it back to her. I think I finally found the culprit with my sister's clock. We're going to look at the pallets underneath the microscope. Now, the pallets are supposed to be nice and smooth. Now, let me get something to point with. Come on, Mark. Please have patience with me. I'm not left-handed. As you can see, this pallet, there's ridges right here. And it's supposed to be nice and smooth. That right there could stop the clock. On the opposite side of that pallet, and get to it, again, bear with me, I'm not left-handed. I got to get my left brain to talk to my right brain and vice versa. You see these 3 nicks? And there's a groove right here, too. It should have that stuff. Now, verge and crutch assemblies only cost like $1.50 at Time Savers. And this is the other side. This one isn't that bad. It's still nice and smooth. And granted, you're looking at it under a microscope. So this one is messed up. Stand by and let me get another one. I got some new ones around here somewhere, but I can't find them. What I found was a broken one. The pivot's gone on this. I don't know why I even kept this thing around. Maybe for the wire. I don't know. But, and this is what happens when you do not bend the verge and crutch assembly in the middle. If you swing this back and forth, this is what happens. You break them off right there. Because this is how a lot of them are mounted. There's a hole in here, and I guess they spot weld, or I don't know. Some of them are mounted on the sides, but most of them have a hole drilled through this shaft, and they stick the thing up there, and then they probably squeeze the wire and pull it down, because I tell you all the time that you can't put a square piece in a round hole. But I'm going to try to salvage this one using a Dremel. So stand by. I'm going to try this with my right hand this time. Now this is the opposite side, and I touched it up also. Now this is the side that had issues, if I could get it in the right spot. Come on. I wish this thing had a laser pointer where it was pointing, where it's so it points down there, and so I can see it up here. But there's the top side, and I almost had it. There's the bottom side, and you can see it's nice and smooth now. And you should be able to see it. There it is. You see it's nice and smooth now. So hopefully this will work. If not, I've got parts clocks, and I keep dropping stuff, and that's how things end up in the floor. I've got parts clocks. If this doesn't work, I will take one out of my parts clock. I bought, I don't know, 3 or 4 a couple years ago. I think I've only used one. I might have used them all. I don't think so. They should be in that cabinet right there. But anyway, they're not that expensive. I just need to order some more. And I tell you in other videos that I don't order from Time Savers that often, because I don't work on clocks for a living. But when you are getting involved in working on other people's clocks and you want to do a good job, you do what you got to do, I guess. And I told you I did this thing off camera because using a Dremel, I have to bring it up really close to my head, because this doesn't show me everything I need to see, neither do my glasses. So I have to use double the lens to make it more powerful. But I want to talk about, and I know I'm going to have people that are going to complain about this, but I don't care. They can. You don't have to repair the clocks the way I show you how I repair them. What you do is totally up to you. I'm just showing you how I do it. They seem to run just well after I repair them. And how you do it is totally up to you. And I'm sure there's several different ways of repairing these pallets. First of all, you want to use a blade, a tool that is flat. If you grab a tool, I'm going to grab one. I know I got one in here somewhere. Stand by. I like using the green stones. These red stones, they're more coarse than the green stones. And I thought I had a Dremel, one of these green stones in here that wasn't flat. These stones will get curves and stuff in them, and they'll no longer be flat. So And the way I do this is, and this thing's broken, all right? So I could do whatever the heck I want to it. But the way I do this is I turn on my Dremel first, and it's on 1. But I'm using my fingers to slow it down. I can actually stop this. And when I get the part where I want it, I let go of it. But I'm using the Dremel to slow it down and I'm using my fingers to slow this Dremel down and control it. I'm not a robot. I don't have a lot of. I can take a lot of pain. All right. This will hurt most people after a couple of seconds. So I'm not most people. I'm going to turn this thing back on and show you what I just did. Or try to. That's what I just did using that Dremel. Now we're going to go to the other side. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's actually not that bad. But like I said, this thing is broken, so I can't use it. The pivot is broken in it. But you have to use a flat stone, and you have to make sure that you get it at the right angle and position at the same time on the stone, or you're going to screw things up. I tried doing this with a file. Maybe I'm using the wrong file, but it don't work for me using a file. That's why I use a Dremel. And again, I'm not most people. I can control the speed of my Dremel with my hands. That I've showed you this in other videos. I don't have the proper. I don't want to do that. Let me grab a wheel out of my parts box here. These are just spare wheels I have. Most people can't do this because it will hurt most people. Again, I'm not most people. Now I got the movement all cleaned up. I don't have all the parts back on the movement. But before I took this movement apart, without the pendulum leader wire, when you add the weight, the crutch assembly should just sit there and rock back and forth. And I had this clock running in my house prior to taking it to my sister's, and it ran all week long. But and then she started having trouble with it. Now, when I add this weight, that pendulum leader, the crutch assembly should just rock back and forth. Just like that. I couldn't get it to do that before. Now, for some reason, my board here is not quite level. So that's why I have to touch the crutch assembly. I think my file cabinet that I have it on is not quite level. And so anyway, because the pallets were screwed up, is the reason why I couldn't get it to do that. It would do it for a couple of seconds and it would stop. And I'd get it to do it again. It'd sit there and do it for a few seconds and then it would stop. So this is some of the things that you have to diagnose while you're working on clocks. Take the pendulum leader assembly off and see if you can get the crutch assembly to do that. And then when you add the pendulum leader wire, if you can't get it to do that, then you know it's in the assembly that the pendulum leader wire hangs on, the B wire or the U wire. This U wire has to be nice and tight. This post that the U wire fits on has to be nice and tight. The B wire can't have any flat spots in it, etc., etc. So this makes me happy. And the last time I worked on this clock, I guess I never did look at the pallets under my microscope, it didn't happen overnight. It takes years and years for them to get those pallets to get screwed up. So, but last time I worked on this clock, the clock was running for me. It just, I don't know. I can't explain it. All I know is the reason why it wasn't running for her is because the pallets were messed up. But it should run for her now.
It's very important on how you put the snail on. This is a snail. There's 2 tabs on this cam. There's a short tab and a long tab. The way I do it is I make the long tab just get through striking. And as you can see, when you activate the cuckoo, this pin drops into the center of the gathering cam, the gathering pin. The hour just got through striking. So you put the rack on. This is the rack. At the same time, you're putting the snail on. And the way I do it, you have to do it at the same time. The way I do it is I want the there's some debris on this wheel of this tab, so I need to take that debris off. A piece of paper or something. Again, the long tab is the hour, so we just got through striking the hour. The way I set it up is I want the tail of the rack to fall where the 12 o'clock position would be. And I'm going to move the snail over just a little bit. I didn't move it enough. It's sitting on the point. So it's kind of hard to do all this. So I'm going to move it over just a little bit more. And I'm going to do a function test and count. From the last time I worked on this clock, there's a scratch right here on the rack. That should be the 12 o'clock position. So we'll count. And you want to make sure that this tab of the rack stop lever that falls into the rack is falling fully into each notch of the rack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So moving the intermediate wheel, so the minute hand goes clockwise. I want to see where the 12:30 position is. And you see how the 12:30 position is about in the center of this 12 o'clock notch? That might not be positioned right. So I'm going to move it over some more because I want to make sure that this tab of the tail of the rack falls onto the 1 o'clock position, which is this right here. And it doesn't. It fall in the 12 o'clock position again. So that means, and again, it just got through striking the hour. So I need to move the snail over 1 notch. And there it fell on the 1 o'clock tab, but I think I moved it 1 too many notches. There it fell into the 1 o'clock position. So I'm going to move the snail all the way over, holding the rack out of the way until it gets about the 11 o'clock position or 10 o'clock position, and I'm going to start doing a function test. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I don't know whether this is going to be the hour or the half hour. That's a half hour. Now I want to see where it falls on the 12 o'clock position. See, it fell more to the left on the 12 o'clock position. So hopefully by the time I do 12:30 and then the one will be back up here where it's supposed to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now for the 12:30 position, as you can see, this is already closer to the end of the snail. 12:30 position, and on the 1 o'clock position, it's going to fall onto the 1, which is perfect. If you do not do these function tests, it'll strike twice here. If this tab on the 1230 position is too close to here, your clock will stop at 5 minutes to 1 or 10 minutes to 1. So do the function test. I'm happy with that. I'm going to put the E-clips and the washer and the E-clip on this. And you should do a function test for every number because you want to make sure that this tab of the rack fully seats in each notch. Because if it's on the end of the teeth, it will cuckoo twice because it'll catch up with itself when it falls into a notch. But do these function tests. As you can see, it's fully seating in the notch. And if it's not fully seating in the notch, it's because somebody turned the hand backwards when it went into warning. It's in warning right now, okay? And if you turn the hand backwards, I need to go to a different spot. Stand by. Don't forget to put your B-wire back on. Make sure the loops are the same diameter and make sure that your B-wire can just move back and forth easily like that. If it's spread too much out, it's not going to be able to do that right there. If it's spread too far in, it's not really designed to be spread too far in. Remember, I didn't bend that wire that goes in this hole of the lift lock lever. So you feed it through that hole, and I have a pair of hemostats here to hold that wire, and I'm feeding it through that hole and putting the clock back in. Already had the chains on, and so the movement is in the wire. This wire here that trips the music, it's through this lever here that is part of the lift lock lever, and you still have the 90-degree bend in that wire. So I got to put some screws in this movement, and then we'll get back. The movement is in. The bird is connected. I open up the door, let go of the door, and the door slams shut. That's exactly what you want. The music guy, the door slams shut. Exactly what you want. And I tell you in other videos, I like taking one step at a time. Here, the 8-point star wheel tab is barely missing the hammer tab, and that's what you want. If that tab is touching the hammer tab, when the clock goes into warning, it's going to strike one time because the 8-point star wheel moves just a little bit when the clock goes into warning. And I'm going to see if I can show that to you. Watch the 8-point star wheel. Did you see it move? Watch it again. It just went into warning. Did you see the 8-point star wheel move? So in other words, if the tab of the hammer is touching that 8-point star wheel tab, when it moves, it's going to drop to the next notch, and the hammer will strike one time. When it's done, the tab of the 8-point star wheel is barely missing the hammer tab, and the low note lever and the high note lever is occupying the next section. If you got it in the wrong position, the low note lever and the hammer will occupy the same position when it's done striking. You also want to make sure that every one of these tabs on the 8-point star wheel is bent at a 90 degree, and that there's a little bit of clearance between the 8-point star wheel and the movement. If the 8-point star wheel is, let's say, deformed at all, if it's touching the movement, it could create problems cuckooing. Now I have to add the high note bellow, but before I add the high note bellow, remember I told you that it's missing the eye, and it wasn't in the movement. It must be in their floor somewhere. So it's missing the eye that the wire connects to, so I got to put one in. On the bellow lift wires, I got it laid on my table. This is flat on the table, but this isn't. You want them both flat on the table, so do adjustments. And now you can see they're both flat. Now, you want this to be, I don't know how to explain it, but stand by. On this particular clock, the bellow lift wire goes behind the clock. So when you connect this to the eye loop, let me try that again. I had too much crap in my way. When you connect it to the eye loop, this loop here needs to be facing in the back of the movement. So I told you that typically these things are not connected in the back. Typically they're connected in the front, and that would be perfect with these both being flat. But in this case, because it's connected in the back of the movement, this is facing to the left of the clock, and it needs to face toward the rear of the clock. So I need to twist it so it comes to the rear of the clock. It was right until I bent it. And so now I have to fix it. So now it's right. It's toward the rear of the clock. Had everything done, and the wire that lifts the bird was not lifting the bird good enough for me, and I adjusted it and it broke off. So now I need to add another wire. So after some adjustments, it cuckoos and it plays music on the hour. And the music stops. And it only cuckoos on the half hour. I want to let this thing run for the rest of the day, make sure it stays running, and go from there. It's been running for a few hours now, so I went ahead and put the hooks and links back on. If it stays running all night, I'll take it back to her house tomorrow. Hope y'all liked this video. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to check the pallets on the escapement, on the verge and crutch assembly, because if they're not smooth, your clock's not going to run. May God bless each and every one of you.